So today we continue with part 5 of our CQRS with Axon framework tutorial. So today we are going to be building the query module. But before we get into today's class, let's solve the problem we had from part 4. So in part 4, if we issue a command, it gives us an error message. So let's see. And there is also another problem I discovered I would like us to solve. So let's say we have a gift card with this ID, and let's say 1000 units, and we issue. So it tells us that aggregate identifier must be null after blah 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 blah. So that's one problem. Another problem is an error message is actually supposed to be displayed in red. So it's not going to display in this color. It's going to display as an error message. So let's go ahead to fix this problem. Actually, it took me some time to figure out that I made some where I made the mistake. So if I go to gift card, you can see that here I have target aggregate identifier is supposed to be just aggregate identifier. So in the aggregate, you annotate the ID with aggregate identifier, not the target aggregate identifier. So that's a mistake I made. So I'm going to just import the class at this point. So I'm going to save everything. And in the other area of error message, so if I go to the GUI, when an error occurs, I should be able to show an error message. So the notification type at this point is going to be error message. So I'm going to simply say notification type, notification type. I needed to give me the IntelliSense. So it's going to be error message. So let's look for type error message. So that's this one. All right. So I think this problem is solved. So let's test it to make sure everything is okay. If you are joining for the first time, please hit the subscribe button, and also feel free to let me know if you have any challenges. Let me stop it, and then I'm going to rerun it, and let's test again. So I'm going to rerun it at this time. So hopefully the problem is going to be gone. So we are going to be able to issue a gift card and also redeem a gift card, and then we be able to continue with step 5 or part 5, which is to build the query module. Query module is actually not too much different from the command module. Remember, command module is about sending queries that are updating that will update the data store. Query module is actually getting information about the states of the aggregates. All right. So if we go back at this point, we have Axon dashboard here. Everything is okay. So if I refresh this page, and we are going to test it now. So let's try to issue a gift card, and let's issue something that minus 8, or let's say minus. Of course, it doesn't work. So it says amount must be greater than or equal to 0. So if I issue, let's say 0, let's say I'm gonna close this. So if I issue 0, also the same error. So now it displays the error in red. That is fine. So let's try to issue 1000, and I issue, it says success, as you can see. Let's say again, issue for 1000, success, everything went fine. All right, let's try to redeem. And let's try to redeem 2000 at this point. So it also doesn't work because the amount has to be less than the balance. So let's try to redeem 1000 or 1500, and you can see the amount must be so at this point it actually has to be less than 1000. That is, so let's redeem 500, and it works perfectly. So everything is okay. Everything is okay. So let's now build the query module step by step as before. So we are going to go to the query package. So let's do the step by step. In this part, we build the query module, and this in line with the CQRS principle. We want to write the queries in a different package instead of issuing the queries from the same module as the command. So we are going to go to the query package and create a Kotlin file and name it API. So I'm going to just say new Kotlin file. So it's basically almost the same thing we did at the other side, but a little different. So this is Kotlin.apk. The file would hold the entity that will be stored in the database. Annotate this class with entity annotation, and inside this file, create a data class with the name cat summary, and the class will have the following parameters: ID string. So let's just do it instead of reading it out. I'm going to say data class card summary. So basically, a card summary is simply the information about the card, the current, the initial balance, the remaining balance, and the ID. So not too different from the card the original gift card, but this is now the state of the card at that particular time. So it's gonna be var ID. It's gonna be string. Now I'm gonna make it string, which is initial value is gonna be null, right? And then the next one is initial balance. It's gonna be int. It's gonna be a nullable int, of course. It's gonna be 0. The initial balance is gonna be 0. And the remaining balance also will be initialized to 0. Remaining balance is also a nullable int initialized to 0. All right. Okay, so I'm going to annotate this class with entity annotation because we are going to be using JPA, and we'll be able to store this information in the database as well. All right. So this is basically the event store is what we are building at this point. Add the @id annotation to the ID variable. So in this ID annotation, I'm simply going to add the @id annotation at this point. It's from javax.persistence. I'm going to add it. All right, so we will now have to create the data provider in the GUI class. This is required to create a projection that will be used in the grid. So data provider is simply a gateway, like we talked about, gateway for sending queries to sending commands to the aggregate. In this case, we need a data provider for fetching data from the data store or from the repository. So let's go to the gift card GUI. So we will create a private variable of type data provider. So let's see. So here we have CommandGateway for sending commands. In this case, we now need a gateway for fetching data, and that is going to be a data provider. So I'm going to say private. Let's make it final. Data provider, and it's going to be card summary and void, right? Let's call it data provider. Okay, it's fine. So let's simply so what is happening here? Change the field type to content button. Yeah, that is what I did, right? Data provider, add constructor parameter. That is okay. So now I added the constructor parameter. It simply added as injected the constructor into into this method at this point. So we have gift card GUI. So we have a constructor for the command gateway and also the data provider injected at this place. Let me just make sure everything is okay. So in this case, we have command gateway, query gateway, okay, and so this is our data provider. That is fine. But actually we need to set the query gateway instead of data provider. Yeah, so we need to inject a data provider, a query gateway into this constructor. So I'm going to say query gateway, all right, and we set we have set the command gateway. Now we are going to set the data provider to be data provider and give it, of course, we can initialize it. No, this is not the point. So let's say, so take out private data provider. So I'm going to simply undo. All right. So this the data provider is going to be data provider created using the query gateway. All right. So we are creating a data provider using the query gateway. Add method data provider. So let's simply follow the instruction in the page here. So place your cursor in the data provider query gateway code. All right. Then choose create method in data provider in CAD-GUI. So let's go. So here, create method, and that is fine. So let's see. I think we are okay. Yeah. So make this method return new. Make it return new abstract backend data provider, and make sure to use IntelliSign to complete the statement. So let's see. Let's get back here. So I'm going to say return new abstract backend data provider, and I'm going to just select it. All right, good. You will see the two additional methods are added, and the two additional methods are size in backend and the stream. So size in backend, you see two additional methods: fetch from backend, which is this one, and size in backend, which is this one. We now need to implement these methods. Before we implement this method, we need to create a data query and size query in the api.kt file. So let's do that. So let's go to the api.kt file in the Kotlin API file. When we need to create a data class named data query, and this class should have two integer attributes, offset and limit. So this is going to be the size query, the data query, and then we also create the size query, right? So it's gonna be a data class, data query. If you don't follow very much at this point, don't worry yourself. Gradually, you'll get the hang of it. So just make sure you follow the instructions, just the way I'm doing it right now. That is the way you get used to it. Value of the offset is going to be int, and we have the limit is going to be int as well. All right, so the limit must have type int. So let me just put colon here, and finally we need to create the size query. So this one we could do it as just a class, because it returns simply just one single number, which is the number of items returned. So I'm going to just save everything. All right. So getting back to the GUI, gift card GUI. Now back to the gift card GUI, as you can see. Now implement the two methods which we actually created the classes. So this we are going to implement. So I'm going to kind of come here and reduce this so that it becomes kind of clearer. So permit me to increase a little bit. So the first one we are going to return for the fetch from backend, we are going to return QueryGateway.query new. Let's just write it instead of just trying to read it out. So we are going to return QueryGateway dot query and new. Okay, let me just start in a new line and say new data query, new data query, and new data query. I'm going to say query dot offset dot get offset, and it takes another argument, query dot get limit. All right. right, so we also need to specify the response type. So give me a sec. Query.get, offsite.get, let me. So we are still having working with the query gateway. I think I should make this in a bit simpler, easier to follow. So the next parameter after the data query is going to be the response type. So I'm going to say response types dot multiple instances of cat summary dot class. All right, good. And at this point, I'm going to simply say dot join and dot string. So I could convert it to a stream of objects, a stream of values, right? So now I've now made this redundant. So I'm simply going to take it out from here. So, right, so everything seems to be fine with the fetch from backend method. So let's work on the size in backend. So I'm going to simply return query gateway. I'm going to simply return query gateway dot query and new size query. New size query. Why is it not given the instance? Okay, yeah, that is it. Perfect. New size query, and the response type is going to be response type. It's going to be, so I'm going to use response type dot instance of. So in this case, we're talking of just one single integer value representing the number of items or the count of items returned, and it's going to be integer dot class. Okay, so and I'm going to simply say dot join. Okay, perfect. So hopefully everything is fine, and put the final semicolon at this point. So let's now review what happens. Let me just explain to you exactly what is happening here. The first thing we did was to create an entity class. This class will represent the data model, the gift card, but a gift card stored in the data store or in the event store. So we call it, we give the name here, gift card summary. All right, that's what we call it, gift card summary. That's the name. More like it's the same as gift card, but it represents the gift card at a particular instant of time. Whereas the gift card is the aggregate, which is like where you have to represent the class where you build the gift card from, issue commands, and also handle the events, right? So we added data provider variable to the card GUI. So data provider is simply an object that you use to query to get data from the event store, just like a command gateway. Then we did a constructor injection of the data provider into the class. We then went to the API and added data query data class and also a site query class. And finally, we implemented the data provider method, which returns an abstract backend data provider object in which we implemented two required methods, fetch from backend and size in backend. All right. So if this is a bit tough for you, pause the video, try to take some time to get your head around it, write this class, or everything we did, do it all over again, and you find out that it becomes clear. So in the next part, we will then create the summary projection. Remember, all the code snippets are right here for you, so you can actually copy and paste if you have any challenges, just to cross-check. But if you want the complete project, you can find it here in the GitHub repository. You can just download it or clone the repository for free, and that is fine. So I'd like to stop here. I'd like to thank you for viewing. The next part will be part 6, where we are going to actually be building the summary projection that we are going to be displaying in the grid view in the GUI. So I remain kind on the genius and take notes that I'm always there for you. Hit the subscribe button if you've not subscribed. Share this video around and like the video as well. And leave me a comment if you have any challenges following my classes.